we will have a best of 5 series between Lucas L99 and Stanley Winston, a part of the round of 32 ESOC WarChiefs Classic second iteration. This is a best of 5 series. I think I already mentioned that, but I'll mention it again just for the sake of it. And we do have Lucas L99. I think he was perhaps seed number 6, if I'm remembering correctly, and Stanley Winston probably around seed number 27 or something like that. And definitely Lucas L99 is not leading this series 3-0. We are just hopping into game 1, and it's going to be on ESOC Arkansas. The players agreed to the matchup. It had to be between the 3 TWC civs, Iroquois, Sioux, and Aztec. Those were their only options. Lucas L99 chose the Iroquois, and he's going to be playing in the west side of the map, color green. We're going to have our underdog for the evening, Stanley Winston, in the color red, playing as the Sioux.
Yeah, and it is a coin start, which is bad for both players. Really, you don't really go for a market as either. Maybe you'll see if they get a wood treasure. There's I believe there's a wood treasure on this map somewhere. Although saying that, looks like Stanley Winston's going to get 90 food, which is nice. And at the same time, Iroquois is just scouting around himself. He's probably going to find the 40 XP and take that. Although this is the treasure you want to be taking, really. Those out, whichever player gets the outlaw rifleman is in such an incredible position. Really, you win age 1 just from taking that treasure.
Definitely be very impactful. And speaking of the crates, I would say probably the 100 coin crate actually favors the Iroquois player a little bit more because for one, even if Lucas were able to get that wood there, it would be kind of difficult for him to put an advantage to it. You don't really often see Iroquois players chopping for the early trading post anymore. In fact, on RE patch, they usually wouldn't have to do that because they would start with 200 wood crates. But yeah, definitely here. If it were a 100 wood start, I think Stanley Winston would be very comfortable chopping for that, whereas Lucas would be at a disadvantage.
Although
However,
sorry to interrupt, but you do normally chop as Iroquois
oh,
nowadays.
you think so?
I think Kaiser sort of being probably the only player who played the Civ for a while. Actually sort of change the meta into building the trading post when you get 100 wood. But go on to saying what you were saying.
Yeah, so the 100 coin, it can. There is just the better potential for actually Iroquois to use that. For example, with the starting Travois, you can use that to put down a farm. If it were a livestock map, that might have been a better choice, but here we won't see it. Won't see Lucas going for that today. Basically, from that farm, you can get more additional food upgrades.
Yeah, you can basically get hunting dogs, which all the TWC civs lack. You can also go for a dock if it's a water map, I guess, as Iroquois, but that's a lot slower, and we're not going to be seeing that at all because obviously Arkansas doesn't have anywhere you can put a dock down. But uh, age 1 has sort of been equal here, I think, maybe. Yeah, Stanley taming a bear, which is an interesting treasure. Actually, quite a good treasure if you use it against guardians, and Lucas getting that rifleman, which is one of the strongest converted guardians you can get.
So I really like the Pokemon army that Stanley Winston is beginning to field. He's now picking up an Iroquois Tomahawk. He has one low HP black bear, but another black bear to boot, and then the little wolf. Whereas Lucas, he did get that outlaw rifleman, but that's about all he has on the field so far. And this 2 black bear guarding 2 sheep is probably not a treasure he wants to go for at the moment. And not really any more good treasures left on the map. They were pretty evenly distributed of, between the players, the resource value, but as far as pressuring in this transition to the colonial age, I think Stanley Winston comes a little bit ahead with his. Oh my god, that's sprinting Iroquois. Uh,
The only
oh,
problem Stanley Winston does have is obviously Sue want to go for that trading post, but if he gets caught out by this rifleman, even if he gets 2 shots off, and if he explores it as well, he might not be able to get the trading post up actually. Although he's going to age just a second, he's going to get 250 HP, and he's going to be fine. So disregard what I just said. But yeah, this sort of Pokemon army here from both players, it's not going to be really too impactful.
We'll have to see. Of course, we see the Pokemon army of Stanley Winston trying to scout out the 4 Travois of Lucas L99, but it seems like Lucas L99 is going to get away from it. The Pokemon's at the wrong location, and the forward Warhut going at mid-map location.
Well, Stanley gets the pass as well, so the XP from the training post is actually equal, even though one player built so much earlier. That ESOC WarChiefs going to take a bit of damage, Joe, from the two Explorer and his henchman there, and he does spot the Warhut as well. But I mean, that Tomahawk's just going to get out of his base. Obviously, Lucas went up with the slower age up for the resources, which is 200, 200 food, 100 wood, and 100 coin. And at the same time, I believe Stanley went up with 400 wood, right?
I would hazard a guess that that was the case. So we see the stable coming out. Yeah, definitely went up with the 400 wood. Some market. Let's see the Texan Q. He's got hunting dogs and placer mines. No TPs, but is stacking wood. Maybe he's going for a war hut. Perhaps chopping a little bit. Going to get that 250 wood. Have to see if he does place. There you go. There's the war hut.
And at the same time, it looks like Lucas is either just going to be massing Tomahawks, which he does have a couple in queue, but it also looks like he's probably going to take the TP line, or at least take Stanley's trading post. There's not really much Sue can do here when they don't put the war up first to take out the sort of Tomahawk push and the Kenya push that Lucas does have, although Lucas obviously doesn't want to go into the Sue base in case there's a pop. But he's going to take out this TP line, and but also probably is going to take the second TP and the third TP for himself. He sends the wood crates.
So we do see 5 bow riders pop out for our suit hero, but 4 axe riders now reinforcing is kind of curious, given he was able to see what the Iroquois player was massing. A big batch of tomahawks and Anya horsemen, and now being reinforced by 7 Ayena in the back. And Lucas L9 is just going to barrel on towards Stanley Winston's base, and with no TPs, no Seton bows on the field, this is going to be really difficult for him to hold.
Yeah, and something about me sort of tells, or something I think is Stanley may have made a mistake not making TPs. TPs making your unit so much stronger. He does pick up a couple of villagers in Lucas's base, and Lucas is actually quite heavily behind an eco population. Let's have a look at how many he's lost here. Lucas has lost 4 villagers, and really he needs this push to work, because just look at the difference in Ecopop is 10 difference when you account for that 5 villager shipment from Stanley. Although no TPs in base does mean that he can't defend very easily here.
Yeah, I do like this play from Lucas. You know, he's so far ahead, or not far ahead, because he did lose the 4 villagers. But he's far ahead because he's going to take down all of the military production facilities of the Sioux player. So basically, if the Sioux player ever wants to engage here, he's going to need, you know, like one more shipment just to come in. And with the siege trading post, Lucas LN9 can expect that not to arrive very soon here. He's comfortable taking down that stable in the back of Stanley Winston's base.
Well, there's 6 Seton bows, and he does pop the villagers at the same time. And those Kenyas are going to go down almost definitely. I mean, the villagers are just blocked so nicely there. And the Seton bows are going to do a lot of damage on the Tomahawks. And also, I think he cleans up here. But at the same time, as you said, there's no buildings in base for Stanley to produce any more units. So this is all he's actually going to get. And that Explorer's been up the whole time, boosting the units and having the crack shot. And Lucas isn't even all in here. He just sent 5 villagers. A couple more Tomahawks do come out, which he probably should try and get back. And he's not going to lose the Explorer here, which is quite nice for Lucas. But Stanley, quite nicely, actually, just defending there.
Yeah, so Stanley, you know, he did live, and he is technically an economic lead. He did kill a lot of villagers. And Lucas is way behind, but he does have the trading post, and Stanley Winston does not have that any longer, nor does he have any military production facilities. He is chopping the wood to get those out right now. I'm curious, yeah, he's going to be able to stable to start with, so he's probably going to go back into bow rider production. You know, it's still a tenuous game. Having lost so many villagers, it does put Lucas at a big deficit, you know. It's really still any man's game. Score-wise, Lucas is leading, and just overall, I would kind of place Lucas to come from this position, but you know, kind of we just have to wait and see, really.
exactly. And maybe Stanley hasn't played very much on the newest patch, and not putting down TPs is a bit of a mistake here, really, as I said. Has Stanley been playing recently? Has he just got back into the games? I knew he took quite a long break, didn't he, at one point?
So yeah, Stanley has always been a little bit inactive. Not inactive, but just kind of plays when he wants. It has been quite a few weeks since he last played, and he started getting into it maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 weeks ago. So a little bit rusty, just shaking off the old rust. But he used to be a solid lieutenant colonel level. But as we're seeing in the game right now, 5 bow riders are popping out, but it's not going to be enough to take this engagement with the big infantry mass of the Iroquois player. And I like what Lucas is doing. You know, he's able to field a much bigger military, even though he's at an economic disadvantage. He just has the production. You know, all Stanley Winston can produce is cavalry, and that's not going to perform well against the hyenas and the tomahawks. So Lucas is good to keep his foot on the gas pedal, keep Stanley penned up in his base, prevent him from, just limit his options. We did see 700 coin coming out for Stanley, but he's not going to have the food production to really make anything of it. Even if he's able to mass more bow riders, it's not going to be. He's not really going to reach critical mass. He's just not going to have the time to do that. To which he could build up enough bow riders to take a good engagement against the infantry of Lucas.
Yeah, and he needs a shipment really. He does have berries in base, which is quite nice, but he's losing more and more villagers here, and at the same time, Lucas is producing more and more units. He needs something like the two dog soldiers and getting quite a nice pop on the hyenas, because the hyenas just demolish the bow riders. Obviously, with bow riders, you can sort of toy around a bit with tomahawks because they do have that animation. But he's just losing so much infrastructure here, and he's not gathering any resources. 28 units, 28 villagers bunged up in that TC is effectively the same as 10. So Lucas does go back here. He doesn't have the protection from the explorer that he normally would do with extra TC shot on the hyenas. But yeah, I mean, this isn't a good spot at all for Stanley.
Yeah, so a little bit of a raid coming in, but not going to catch any villagers this time. Maybe might catch one.
Yeah, he doesn't
Not
even
even.
say he's
Yeah.
that one. And there's two dog soldiers, as I said,
Yeah.
but there's a corral does actually go up as well, but he just needs more and more units. There's no Setons here, and Setons just dominating this position if he had a war hut, a second war hut instead of that corral. And at the end of the day, he might even just lose his TC here and lose all the villagers in it, and that's just GG. And yeah, Lucas now sending 600 wood to produce even more tomahawks, and he's just going to apply more and more pressure. He also gets the those two dog soldiers.
So the unit's starting to converge, and this is probably Stanley Winston's timing. You know, he has the town center fire. He has as many units as he's ever going to get, at least in comparison to the Aztec ones, and some good micro. Good micro from Stanley.
Yeah, good micro to get those tomahawks off, and there's actually not a lot of Iroquois units here, and the bow riders don't actually fare too badly against the hyenas because the hyenas have such a terrible animation, and the TC fire's taking them all down. So honestly, he's cleaned up here again, but again, he's just idled all this time. We're in 24 villagers in that TC, and there's more tomahawks now, and these two bow riders aren't going to be doing too much again.
Yeah, idled, no infrastructure, and that's the main difference. And so while the economic and the military unit populations are basically the same, behind that, Lucas has so much more in the way of infrastructure. You know, he has a lot of houses, actually only a little bit of houses, but he has more resources in the bank, better upgrades as well. He has another war hut going down, control over mid map, and a lot of access to these hunts. Another trading post going down. He might even get the stagecoach at some point. That's going to be GG called by Stanley Winston.
Yeah, and I think well defended by Stanley, but I think his build was just slightly too weak. Maybe the five villagers instead. As the second shipment should have been something like 6 Seaton bows, or just more wood and get more war huts set up. Because at the end of the day, if he had a war hut there, he would have been completely fine. And unfortunately for him, that spelled the end.
So that will be game one picked up by Lucas with the Iroquois. And it's hard to say. I think the best case, it was actually pretty much the best case scenario for Stanley Winston with his particular build order, sending the 5 villagers first and then the 4 axe riders and going for a raid in Lucas's base while the Iroquois pressure came in. He got away with a 4 villager raid, and that put him at a significant economic lead. But even in the best case, we saw the pressure just being too much and Stanley not being able to get back up on his feet. In fact, I would have preferred if his build order were a little bit different in this game. Took a page out of the book of Knushelbar that we saw in just the last game, where Knush went for 700 wood, then 5 villagers. With the 700 wood, Stanley Winston could have comfortably gotten, his economic upgrades, a stable, a war hut, and all of his trading posts. Sorry, not trading posts, but all of his TPs. And then he would have even had a few leftover wood to purchase some Seton bows, and that would have greatly helped in his hold against Lucas's pressure. And that wasn't what we saw, so unfortunately the pressure was a little bit too much for Stanley, and he wasn't able to get away with his interesting build order.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, Stanley was just bunged up, and Lucas was able to do whatever he wanted. He did lose a couple of villagers at the start, as you said, but it doesn't really matter if you have 5-6 villagers over the opponent when you have no army and no way to defend it.
I come in right as Lucas locks China. I don't think that was anything other than our expectation here, was it?
No, Lucas probably the best China player in the game. I mean, he's beaten. I remember from the LAN, at least, when players were practicing against Lucas, he beat basically every single player of China. So it just shows how powerful his the civilization is for him. And that's as Stanley's asking now if he can play the same Civ. There's no limits to how many times you can play the same Civ. So Civ is actually quite strong against China, isn't it?
That's what I've heard, but I haven't necessarily seen it. Most games I've seen between the two civilizations go quite even. It's just kind of hard to call, in my opinion. Yeah, I really don't know a lot about the matchup. I think both civs aren't super micro intensive, at least when they go for that fortress timing based gameplay where the Sioux waits for the big button, the dog soldier big button, and China just does China things and masses a big mass of China units and they slam them all in there. It usually comes down to that from what I've seen, and yeah. So
Yeah, basically it's whoever slams it in and has the bigger mass, as you said. Aztec against China. That's if I was Stanley, I wouldn't play that matchup. You can't play Dutch.
No. Don't tell him. Don't tell him. Just let it slide for now. No! Damn it. I should have PM'd
No,
Lucas.
It would be more interesting to see two European civs go against each other, in my opinion. But anyway, I think Stanley's probably going to play Sue. It's probably the best. I mean, Iroquois is quite good against China. I mean, I talked to Daroga a couple of weeks ago, and he seems to think that it's basically impossible as a matchup. But that's Daroga, and he's quite entrenched about his ideas. So we'll just have to wait and see what Stanley picks. But Aztec is terrible against China because China get into Adrian and you can't do anything. Oh, I'm the same color as someone else. What the hell?
No, that's okay. I prefer if they don't take red green because sensitivity for people with that particular. But that will be game 2 that we're locking into. Lucas leading this best of 5 series 1-0. Kind of an expected result. We just saw some polished Iroquois gameplay from him, besides losing a lot of villages to a big raid. But nonetheless, we will be going into game 2. It's Colorado. Lucas L99, it was his opportunity to lock first any civilization. He chose the Chinese, and he is playing in the color green to the west side of the map. And Stanley Winston, our people's champion, he's playing in the color pink Sue, which was his
Pink.
counter pick. Blink. Don't mention it. I didn't. Okay, whatever.
But yeah, he's gonna get 40 wood. It is a food start, which is it actually doesn't even matter because China always gets the same start. It's changed on beta, but Sue probably not going to go for a TP. China more than likely, as you can see, just instantaneously going to go for a TP in one village. And I think, yeah, as I said, this matchup is it's quite interesting to watch really because it's just both players slamming a massive army into each other at one point.
Yeah, it is really entertaining. But as far as commentary wise goes,
Yeah, there's not much you can say.
we should just spend the entire cast just flaming these players for doing just the dumbest build orders possible.
There's going to be a bit of a contention actually around this 95 wood treasure.
Oh yeah, both players having scouted it at this point. Oh, and Luke is going for it. He probably didn't see the Sioux Explorer going for it, but uh, this is going to be interesting. Now they're just. It
He's going to
seems.
lose his disciple as well. He's going to lose his disciple almost definitely. And he has to run away here.
Uh,
Sue might even be able to convert maybe. The Chinese Explorer one-in-hand combat is pretty decent against the Sioux Explorer, but the Sioux Explorer can just run away. And yeah, Lucas doesn't have the advantage that European Civs have, where he can just correct shot you bear. He sort of has to wait and sort of take it down slowly, but unfortunately, he can't really do that because of Sue's Explorer being so annoying. I mean, Sue is probably the most annoying Civ in the game, in my opinion. But by the looks of it, he's going to take down that Grizzly Bear, and Stanley's just going to convert this Grizzly Bear. So that's basically a 200 wood swing there, which is pretty big.
so we do see Stanley Winston also locking eyes on this 90 food treasure. Gonna be pretty big. Not even gonna take a lot of damage for it. Might lose the grizzly bear, but might save it as well. Now these wolves get that food. So 90 food and 95 wood, whereas what's looking like for Lucas, just 10 coin. Really not what he want to see.
He's
Oh,
going to get 90 coins, so that's going to
okay.
bring his total up to 100. There you go. That's okay. But and also that Nutka is going to get taken by Stanley, which is probably the most broken shipment, not shipment, treasure on this map. Tied at probably 110 wood, but he's going to pick that up and he can just harass China with it. Obviously, as China, you stay in base quite a lot anyway, so the Nutka not being so good against China's civ as a whole, but it's still going to be quite good.
Taking a bit of damage for it, down to 200 hit points, but once he gets up to the Colonial Age, that's going to be back up to something like something ridiculous. Sioux Explorer has.
It adds 250 when you get to a Colonial Age. It's half, isn't it? So
Oh,
he's going to be like 450 HP. So he's basically full HP with Discovery Age as soon as he ages up. It's pretty insane. Well, actually, some quite nice treasures left on the map. There is 150 coin, which is really good for China, and 30 coin on base. And there's also 120 XP, but Stanley does spot that, and he's probably going to go pick it up right now.
Oh, instead building the trading post, and I
Lovely.
think he's probably going to use the convert to get that native scout that's trapped there. Oh, just missing the pass. Well, not just. I mean, it's like 10 seconds
Yeah.
away, but that's a little bit unfortunate because it's going to be quite a while before that Travois man comes around again.
So best Nutka might actually find the monk he's going to, yeah. And oh, maybe not. Oh, we're just going separate ways. They saw each other and just said hello and went away. But yeah, I mean, Lucas does want to keep that alive. Obviously, the disciples you can get from him are quite good against the Sioux sort of colonial age push. And he's also going to get 150 coin if he's lucky at the bottom here. And at the same time, Stanley, by the looks of it, didn't go for that native scout. He's just going to pick up 120 XP and get like a quarter of a shipment.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the native scout isn't particularly important against the Chinese because you can usually anticipate what they're going to do, especially in a dry matchup such as Sioux versus China. Instead of going for the 120 XP, gonna expedite Stanley Winston's shipment order. Let's hope for he goes a good build order this game. Oh,
Oh, he can still get 150 coin if he's lucky. Stanley just moves to the left, he's going to be able to steal it incredibly easily. And that Chinese monk has just used his what's it called? Stun ability. So it's going to go. He might even go down here.
It might go down, but I think he is going to get away with the treasure. The Sioux Explorer just being a little bit too slow to reconvene.
Oh, the agent came in
Yeah.
perfect time for him. But again, I mean, if Sioux Explorer stayed on him, he would have gone down.
Yeah, I hope Stanley fights this because Lucas might even be able to pop a disciple, kill this Nooka Clubman, and get away with his life.
Lucas he doesn't have a disciple in queue, so he could actually just try and walk away. But yeah, Stanley, come back, please. This would have been 100 XP, which is pretty huge. Although it might still go down. It depends on the last hit. 90 XP.
Oh, that's unfortunate for Lucas.
And yeah, Lucas is now going for a War Academy in base, which he's going to go for the an army you don't see very often, the Steppe Rider and the Quang Pikeman army. Which the only person I've ever seen actually build is A's, so just have to wait and see what he's actually going to do with that. Maybe he won't actually queue up the whole time, because it is coin, which normally you want to keep as China to age up. But there's a market go down for Lucas as well, which is odd. It's a really early market.
Seems like
it's wood. It is wood. Actually. Yeah, go ahead. So
no, go ahead.
yeah, the Craig Pikeman and the Steppe Ridership army is actually wood. I thought it was coin, but yeah.
So we do see Stanley Winston going for, I mean, I wouldn't call it standard, but it's basically a semi-fast fortress, the build order for a semi-fast fortress without any units trained, because he recognizes that whatever units he's able to do probably won't be able to get effective pressure against Lucas's turned out to be a semi-fast fortress with 700 wood, 909 Quang Pikemen. And we don't even technically see him distributing to age up at this point, actually. Instead, it seems like maybe Lucas is going for a full-on commit to colonial age. Is that perhaps in the cards for him?
Yeah, but I mean, if 9 Wakinas come out here, it just demolishes this. As unless he goes for Russian Consulate and goes for 2 batches of Cossacks, which are really strong. But by the looks of it, if he sticks to age 2 herder, that's really that good. Although he is now sending 700 coin, which signals to me that he's probably going to age up himself. And although these Steppe Riders aren't going to be doing too much. No, not Steppe Riders, Kashyyyks aren't going to be doing too much. Although they might take down that Explorer. It's funny. It's like the opposite to what you would expect to happen. China's sort of playing as Sioux, and Sioux's playing as China.
Yeah, so Lucas is just going to be comfortable. You know, this pressure is going to have been effective. He's going to take down a trading post. Going to probably take down this war hut, even if he's going to lose a few Chang pikemen for it, especially if the 9 Wakina pop in time. But either way, he's also idled the town center of the Sioux player with just like 6 Kashyyyks. That's pretty wild. Oh, maybe even going for... No, going to be forced to go back.
Actually, I think he could take out that war chief quite easily. I mean, Kashyyyks in the next stage aren't really that useful. I want to see if Lucas has V shipment. He doesn't have V shipment, which absolutely nobody sends ever. But he does have 8 Kashyyyks infinite times in deck, which is an interesting shipment. There's a shipment you can send in age 3, which is 8 Steppe Riders and 8 Kashyyyks for 1,000 food, and that makes them into both of them into veteran, which nobody ever uses because it's dreadful. And I thought Lucas was going to have something like that, but obviously not.
Yes.
That's a weird deck from Lucas.
This is a very... Here we go.
Atonement.
This is the Yumiu inspired build order, especially once you mentioned that infinite 8 Kashyyyks, I knew it right away. He was going to have Atonement in his deck. And what Atonement does for the Chinese civilization is it allows him to train iron troops in the monastery. But what's particular about these about these iron troops is that they don't have a negative multiplier against any cavalry, unlike
it's
the
Highlanders and monastery as well.
So with the 9 iron troop shipment that you would normally see when that gets shipped by the Chinese players, those have a malness. They actually deal a negative. They have a negative multiplier against cavalry units. But the ones that you get from the monastery don't have that, so they actually perform well against basically every unit in the game besides cannons. Sioux, not a civilization that has cannons, so those are going to be particularly effective against the Sioux. And especially with that infinite 8 Keshiks, you constantly have the option for an anti-cavalry unit to bolster your mass. It's very interesting. I'm very happy to see it because it's fun to watch. Maybe not fun to play against for the Sioux, but we'll see game unfolds at the moment. We see some pressure coming down on the south village of Lucas. That's definitely going to go down. I don't know if it doesn't seem like there's any villagers in it, but going to lose some safe gathering along this south silver mine in that elk hunt. But he still has plenty of coin to the top over here, which is going to be just enough to train the iron troops that he wants to be training.
Yeah, they're 200 gold each, if I recall. And they're sort of insane as units. I mean, they have 0.6 range resist, if I recall, which is the best range resist of any unit apart from cannons. So these Wakinas are sort of useless against them. They also have 1.5 firing speed, which is like longbows, but they don't have the animation. So they actually do something like 50 damage each shot against something like Axe Riders, which is just ridiculous. But he does need a couple of Kashyyyks as well, there just to block stuff like Axe Riders and the Dog Soldier Big Button. But honestly, if he can get a number of the units out, I mean, he's going to be completely fine.
So Stanley Winston is technically leading in terms of military unit population at the moment here, although 5 Meteor Hammers coming in. Have we seen any of the Iron Troops pop out yet?
There is one in queue, so oh no, there is a couple there, and you can look at their stats. They're just dirty. 25 damage at 16 range, 1.5 times light cavalry, 2 times heavy infantry. This isn't a fight that Lucas wants to take. He hasn't got the supporting units to take down the Wakinas, and the Rifle Riders are just doing damage at the back here against stuff like the Pikemen. Although Stanley is just pushing in here with Axe Riders, which isn't really what he wants to do. They're taking a lot of damage from units that they shouldn't be taking damage from. But those iron troops are probably going to go down to the Axe Riders, although the sentries do come out.
This is a really interesting engagement. You know, I thought it was very Stanley Winston favored for a second there. And it seems like he is going to come away from this trade, you know, having done a lot of damage. You know, he killed all of the iron troops of Lucas. He killed every military unit, actually.
What is interesting here as well, actually, is that because he's pushed in here, Stanley, he knows that Lucas has sent that atonement card, and if you send that atonement card, you're sort of locked into making iron troops because it's basically a fortress engine by the time you send it. There's 6 red coats coming out, but there's too late, unfortunately. So honestly, he can just go with a lot of Axe Riders here, and he should be fine. Especially when Lucas is being forced to send unit shipments instead of stuff like 1,000 coin, which you normally would send when you go for something like iron troops, because he's running out of coin on the side of the map, really.
There's one silver mine in his base that he can't presently gather from. He's got that one over there, but there's only 300 left in it. He's going to have to get a decent mass of these iron troops if he wants to be able to do anything. But he does have 5 on the field and likely going to try to get another batch of 5. A lot of Axe Riders, a dog soldier shipment, going to reinforce that as well. But he's basically going to go for the skirm pike composition with these iron troops and this mixed mass of anti-cavalry. But he just kind of needs to wait for the right engagement, and with no Minutemen left on the field, he's going to be forced to take this engagement.
That's a good. I think that's a good engagement for Lucas, so isn't it? I mean, all these Axe Riders are going to go down to Chang Daos, which when they're in combat are really strong. Although saying that, I think I'm actually. Oh wait, Keshiks. That's going to save him. And what Lucas wants to do here really is he wants to send 4 Axe Riders coming in, which is a colonial age shipment. And Stanley Winston, I don't know why he just sent that. Actually, he could have sent. Oh no, it isn't a colonial age shipment. It's apparently a fortress age shipment. I didn't even realize that existed. But he is getting close to the big button, and Lucas's mass isn't as big as China's mass normally is. And he doesn't have something like Mongolian Scourge on these Kashyyyks, so they're not actually that good.
Big reinforce, and if Stanley Winston is keen, he could get a massive raid off here. Oh,
Oh,
Pay
it
attention,
definitely
baby.
sees it.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be a lot of dead Chinese villagers. And that's going to put him back in this game. It was looking dire straits. I was about to mention it, but, once you've lost one engagement against China, it can be so hard to come back from that. And he might lose some villagers here himself. Escaping them now, taking some damage on the rifle rider. He's going to lose 2, but he killed so many villagers there. And that looks like at least 12 villagers. Gonna lose some of his own, but
Yeah. One thing to mention about Iron Troops is they actually are pretty insane when raiding, because they have 4.5 speed, so they're faster than villagers, and they have no animation, so they just DPS villagers down like instantaneously. But yeah, I mean Lucas is basically on 19 villagers now. Actually no, I'm wrong because I'm not accounting for the tower as I had, but he's still behind quite significantly, and that town center is only just going to go up. And there's cavalry combat, and when the big button comes in, he doesn't have an army, so Lucas is just going to get squished.
Town center does go up, so another 8 Keshiks. The 8 Keshiks there to save the day. We've seen a lot of value out of this shipment today. This engagement, I don't know if it's quite right for Stanley Winston, really, because these Keshiks are in a really great position. There's the opportunity for the Minutemen to be called from the town center of Lucas. It still looks, we see a lot of +12s and a lot of juicy pink experience points bonuses, but
yeah. Stanley doesn't need a push here. He just needs to. He has food down the bottom, and honestly, he just needs to wait for his big button. But he's just wasting units, and that wasn't a good trade in the slightest for him.
Yeah, and so losing another engagement, actually, the Keshiks, they do look a little underwhelming, and so do the Iron Troops, but they are so, so powerful. And we saw Stanley Winston coming away another engagement that he's lost, and it's going to be very difficult for him to remass enough units to get critical mass in order to beat this substantive mass of repentant Iron Troops.
Yeah, and I think one of his Iron Troops probably trades with about 4 or 5 of his Wakinas. It's pretty insane. But yeah, there's the Axe Riders coming out, and Kashyyyks' units, they don't have Mongolian Scourge, so when that big button comes in, they're not even that good. And although at the same time, Stanley needs Wakinas, and he's already sent 9 Wakinas, so he can't really get a mass up easily. And Lucas is just gonna get a bigger and bigger economy when he gets those the 2 sound centers working at their fullest potential. Now he's even getting off his own silver mine because of his 3 Iron Troops and harassing basically his whole army.
I think we see the Colonial 4 Axe Riders reinforcing here, but I don't think it's going to be enough. There aren't enough Wakinas to take down these Keshiks. And while he is, DPSing down all of the Iron Troops with his Axe Riders, pretty good job there. Another batch of 8 reinforcing Keshiks. And Lucas is just rolling here.
Yeah, these Kashyyyks are actually pretty good. I didn't realize they were that good, but imagine what these would be like if they had an extra 20% damage like they did on EP for a while. This strat would be even better. But I mean, there's not a lot of Iron Troops here, and Kashyyyks against Wakina is just dreadful. So yeah, all the Iron Troops are down. There's probably a couple more coming to reinforce at one point. Yeah, just a couple more coming down. But yeah, I mean, Stanley doesn't even have the big button he can call on now because the big button isn't very good against his mass that Lucas has.
And that lonely Wakina... Oh, so we did... I was going to say that was the last of the Sioux forces, but we do see a reinforce of 5. But too many Keshiks here for these Wakinas to deal with, and they're going to get taken down as well. And while we do see some safe gathering for Stanley Winston, if he's not able to pull together a sizable mass, and I really don't think he will be able to, it's just going to be him on his deathbed.
If he can get 1,000 coin, which would be quite nice, he can get 14 Wakinas, which from 2 cattle support, and it gives him 20% HP, which wouldn't be too bad. He just needs a Wakina mass at this point, and then the big button, he's ready to go. But unfortunately, he can't do that at all. He only has 1 Warhawk pumping out units, and a worse economy than Lucas at this point. Each one of those Iron Troops tanks about the same as a Falconet, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, you know, when you put it like that, that's that's so true. The Falcon has 200 hit points with 75 range resistance, and an Iron Troop has 247 with 60%. That's
Oh,
crazy.
500 food is shipped to the war hut instead of the town center, so you can't collect it.
Oh,
'Cause
oh, baby, I'm high.
he
And
does
now,
have nearly enough for the big button, but I don't know what he's really going to do. Oh, as a raid from Minutemen. Just turn around, Stanley, and just hit them. One by one. There you go. Another 8 Kashyyyk. That's actually quite an efficient shipment. Kashyyks are 115 food.
tickle you.
Yeah, Kashyyks are 115 food, so that's like 1,000 food for each shipment. So they're not even that bad. But Lucas maybe trolling a bit there, or just taking a leaf out of Emu's book and ended up working for him. And, fortunately for Stanley, his Burkina Mass. If he didn't push in actually about town centre, he would have actually been fine. I think he would have been able to take.
I'm just taking a look at the villager graphs. It's pretty insane what China can get away with and still win.
He was down to 16 villagers at one point at 16 minutes, which is
Yeah, it just goes to show. I mean, you can take a very winning engagement against China, but what really matters is the follow up after that. Because if you ever lose an engagement against China, it probably means you've lost the game. And so the engagement at the 13-minute mark, I think Stanley lost 20 units, Lucas lost about 13. Of course, at that point, Lucas also lost something in the way of 12 villagers. But China, off the back of that, was able to stabilize and then take another crushing engagement at the 15-minute 30-second mark. And from there, there was never a chance for Stanley Winston to ever mass up units again while under the pressure from Lucas. And faltered, and that'll be game 2 to Lucas.
yeah, and it's now match point, and Lucas does have to pick a DWC Civ, and I've just joined the wrong game. I've just joined Perez's game. Sorry about that. Perez just got spoiled. But yeah, Lucas is definitely in the lead now, and Stanley, he does get to pick a Euro Civ at least.
Yes, so he will. Yes, so he's locking first. We'll let him know that. So Dutch being his pick for today. I honestly might expect Lucas to take Iroquois against that, although I wouldn't put it past him to maybe take Sioux.
Well, the thing about Dutch is it doesn't really get counted by any of the TWC Civs. I mean, Iroquois I think is the strongest against them, but obviously Dutch is a strong civilization against it because you stay in base, and a lot of the TWC civs don't have the booming capabilities that the European civs do, especially Dutch, which is probably one of the strongest booms in the game. But as you said, Lucas could go Iroquois, he could go Sioux. He plays both civs. He can even go Aztec if you wanted to. Yeah, Stanley locking Dutch, and Lucas is going to go to Aztec.
That is interesting. That was exactly the civilization I didn't call, but you know, like you mentioned, pretty much all of the TWC civs have a fair matchup against Dutch. Whether it be Sioux, Iroquois, or Aztec, they all have fair build orders and playstyles against the Dutch that kind of just represent a fair match. And so Aztec being one of Lucas's most comfortable civilizations, one of his favorites, in fact. Not a surprise to see it from him here either.
And yeah, it's the same map again. So obviously Colorado is quite strong for the TWC civs because you get to convert a lot of the grizzly bears, which are quite strong units. And I think this is going to be quite a short game because as Aztec, you like to be the one who's pressuring rather than the one who is sitting back and relaxing, which is what Dutch does, and go to the fortress age. But we'll just have to wait and see. The start here matters quite a lot.
So this will be game 3 in our best of 5 series between Lucas L99 and Stanley Winston, part of the round of 32 of the ESOC WarChiefs Classic. Of course, our player, Lucas L99, with his counter pick Aztec in the west side of the map yet again, green. Stanley Winston, his locked civilization having been the Dutch. He's playing in the color pink to the east side. And right, did you notice what crate start it might have been?
It was a coin start, which is the best possible start for Dutch.
Well, I'm pretty happy for that because we want to give every advantage possible to our hero Mhaya, just so we can have good games.
Yes. Stanley's going to pick up 120 XP. Oh no, Lucas even. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, so if he can micro out and take the XP from the grizzly bear. So if you, as an explorer in the first stage, what you want to do is you want to get the guardians you convert to kill the units. There you go. You can just see Lucas doing that, and you get extra XP because of it. Because obviously the aura from the Aztec Explorer is 2x or 3x when you get the fire pit upgrade. So he's going to get 120 XP, and early XP shipment treasures are huge because you get your food settlers out even quicker than you normally would do, and it represents a lot of resources. Stanley's going to pick up 110 wood though, which is a very powerful shipment. He's going to get his bank up even quicker than he normally would do in transition.
Yeah, both excellent treasures for these players. You know that 120 XP that gave Lucas his shipment basically maybe 30 seconds sooner. So it was basically 100 food treasure, and in addition to that, it's going to expedite all of his shipments in the future, which is just excellent resource value. Uh, the treasures have just been insane this game so far. So we see a kind of a dud for Lucas L99 with this coyote over here, but he did get 90 food, 120 experience points. Now Stanley Winston picking up the Gator Scout in addition to his 110 wood, like you mentioned, got to expedite that bank. So this is looking pretty good for both players, really. Oh,
Yeah, and Lucas is probably going to get 150 coin. Oh no, he's going to go for the mature cougar cub, which is a dreadful treasure, but he's going to pick it up and he's going to get a Pokemon army, which is bigger than you normally would see. Um, Actually, to be honest, the Cougar Cub, if he's going to go for more treasures, isn't even that bad. It has a 3x multiplier versus treasures, so it's like basically like having another explorer. And he's going to get 150 coin here. Um, and Stanley obviously is aging straight away because Dutch ages so quickly because a coin that's all they need for the villagers, not food.
wow, 95 wood and 110 wood. Now Lucas got 150 coin. Like the treasures have just been insane this game. This is probably the most densely packed treasures I've seen on this map so far.
There's still the Nuka treasure, which either player can take, which is one of the best on this map. And Stanley's going to get 95 wood as well, so he's basically going to get 215 wood, or no, 205 wood in age 1 for free. And he got that coin start. So this start for Stanley is just incredible. Yeah, he's going to get his first bank up before he even ages, which is what you want to see as Dutch. There's the bank going down, and more than likely he's going to ship a bank straight away, which is the it's a less eco heavy shipment, isn't it? 700 wood is what you ship if you don't care for someone attacking you early on, but obviously as Aztec, they're probably going to get a war hut up and put some pressure on you.
You see the war hut just in construction at the 4-minute mark for Lucas L99. Again, we saw that with Perez as well. He kind of went for the slower playstyle, so I'd expect, obviously, 700 wood is going to be the first shipment for the Aztec here. And we'll have to see what Lucas L99 does after that. Maybe he goes for a more timing-based playstyle rather than all-out aggression. Although I wouldn't put it past him to simply ship 10 Mace Walton as his next shipment, maybe mass up some Coyotes. Important is what he's going to need to do is scout out what Stanley Winston is doing. Scout if Stanley is going for a stable start or a barrack start. Stanley, I think being the more conservative player, he would probably build a barracks first. But it doesn't even seem as though go for either of those options now. In fact,
he shipped 700 wood as well, which is
there you go.
Really interesting.
Yeah, so he built a bank with his. Go ahead.
Yeah, Luke is going for food TPs, so he's not being too aggressive either. But yeah, go ahead. He built a bank for his wood from there.
Yeah, so greedy builds from both players. The 3 trading post travois. Not only does that represent basically 600 wood, but it also saves some time for your explorer, and it allows him to, just sit at the forward base and heal a little bit rather than having to walk out around the map. And it just gets you those 3 trading posts a lot sooner. I really like that. That's a good shipment from Lucas if he wants to go for this economic playstyle. Yeah, so both very greedy build orders. In fact, Stanley Winston basically went for the greediest build order you can possibly go for, which is building the bank with your 400 wood that you get from the Egypt, sending 700 wood, building more banks. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but here's a mistake though, isn't it? He sent CM. He could have sent a bank wagon instead. He's just blindly sending that. Hasn't scouted the forward war hut. But Lucas, I mean, you can see Lucas has gone for 2 TPs here, and in my eyes, that sort of signals to you that he's not going for something so aggressive. So that CM is sort of pointless, and it's a wasted shipment at this point. Thankfully, for Stanley, he nearly does have another shipment in queue, which he probably will send a bank wagon. Actually, nice building placement from Stanley here as well. He's sort of blocked everything off, and there's not really much Aztec can do to push in here. Although, if that bank doesn't go up, there are a number of Pumas which would just rip it down. Oh, it goes up.
Might get the market, though. It's going to be in line of sight of down center. So we'll have to see if Lucas wants to actually stay here and take that. I wouldn't think he actually would want to, but see here. Oh, but now with the skirmishers popping, definitely not going to want to stay in. Although there is 2 Coyotes, I don't think he'll push in with just that either. But that does represent Lucas's decision to. I mean, just look at the resource distribution. This is still a little bit curious. Perhaps what Lucas wants to do is send 600 coin and then get the rest of the coin for the agent from his stagecoach, and then just go up for a semi-fast fortress himself.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, this push from Aztec isn't going to do anything. Town Hunter having CM just means that the Aztec units are just sort of useless. I mean, the pikes can't even push in here as they just get one shot, and that's basically 100 resources each shot, so it makes the CM incredibly efficient. And the couple of Pumas he does have, it's not going to do anything. So Aztec's obviously going to age up. That hurts more for Aztec. It does for the does for Stanley Winston, because obviously Stanley can fast stage, and he also has a much better eco at the end of the day. And Aztec using its fast stage, which normally does do to get into the second age, is just going to, unfortunately, going to be stuck in the second age for a bit longer.
You say Aztec has a much better economy, but at 30 to 44 with the 3 warrior pre-shipment as well as a 3 TP stagecoach is no slack.
Yeah, but again, I mean, Stanley is ahead, and if he can age up, I think Dutch does quite well against Aztec in age 3. I'm not entirely sure about that. I don't play the matchup very often. But Coyotes are just a bit weak when it comes to cavalry. Although he is going to get a couple of skirmishes here if he's lucky. And 600 wood for Stanley Winston, which is An interesting shipment. Yeah, I don't really understand this sticks of the wood. Do you at all?
Yeah, it'll enable him to get. So he has all the banks that he wants, but it will enable him to get, like a stable, a second barracks, and a few more houses. Um, Whether or not it would have been better for Stanley to save his shipment in the Fortress Age, yet to be seen, but you can already see that Stanley has basically another shipment, and he's just hitting up now. So once he hits up, he's going to have another shipment, probably be maybe about halfway to his next one. So it's okay that they aren't quite rolling. Um, Whereas, he has a good economy at the moment. What he wants is infrastructure to be able to make use of that economy. I don't think 600 wood is too bad here.
Yeah. And these coyotes just sort of trickling in. They aren't too bad, are they? They're just going to be lost to the CM fire. CM may be paying off here. I still think it was a bit of a mistake to send it, because there wasn't the push. But maybe it forced Lucas into aging. And at the same time, if Lucas can age and get enough ERKs out, he should be fine, actually. But yeah, there's an artillery foundry going down for Dutch, which signals to me that he's going to go for some falconets.
Especially with this resource distribution, but he's going to need a lot more wood as well. That could be pretty wise from Stanley Winston, in fact, because I think the reason Lucas is putting on so much pressure and fighting under the Colonial Militia Town Center is because he recognizes that Stanley has no food in his base. This hunt over here has not been herded in, and this stray bighorn hunt is also not representing a lot of food. So Stanley doesn't actually have a lot of food with which he could use to train, for example, a decent mass of skirmishers. That's why we see him now going for the artillery foundry. But with that in mind, I think Lucas, let's see, does he even have 6 Arrow Knights in his deck? It's not, but he does have the Smoking Mirror for his Explorer.
Yeah, he also has the 2 noble huts coming up from the Asia, which he can produce Arrow Knights from. Although they are quite expensive, if I recall. And this is the number of Reuters, and if these coyotes get picked off, it'd be quite nice for Lucas, for Stanley Winston even. And honestly, I mean, if he can pop out a number of falconets, I don't know how well ERKs do against falconets. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe they do better than they do against dragoons. And I mean, he's getting pushed off his coin mine now as well, Lucas.
Oh, 13 Miss Welt in the first shipment in Age 3 for Lucas. And he does have the Elite Mace Waltons as well. Oh, but 3 Falconets, 5 Coyotes right near them. Let's see what happens here.
Ooh, yeah, I mean, I don't know what those coyotes are doing. They're just sort of running off. Oh, they're getting the Explorer back up. But that Explorer might get a couple of shots off if Stanley... No, he's not going to get any. He does have line of sight, though, so those Falconets do have a pretty good range. Yeah, Moctezuma is going to get a couple of shots fired at them. I don't know what Lucas is doing, just leaving his Explorer to die. Maybe a bit of a micro mistake.
Look at this.
But,
Lucas is starting to mass the Arrow Knights from his Double Nobles huts at the forward base. And that is definitely going to put a halt to any pressure that Stanley might try to leverage.
yeah, and Arrow Knight's having 30 range, so they're basically mobile culverins, which do slightly less damage. But yeah, these noble huts are going to go down almost certainly. And although the Arrow Knights are sort of useless when the Falconets actually do go down, there's a lot of Reuters here which can just go in and snipe them maybe.
See how this engagement pans out. Now moving forward with the Falconets, but that's straight into Arrow Knight fire. Lucas is going to need to focus fire. He's losing a lot of his Mace Walton. He's going to need to keep these Mace Walton alive if he wants to be able to protect his Arrow Knights. All of them dead,
Yeah,
but the Falconets are gone for Stanley as well.
One thing to remember about Arrow Knights is it's not like like culverins where just 2 shots and the Falconet's down. They take a while and they sort of do chip damage against them. It adds up. So I think Stanley definitely getting a worse trade when Lucas there. And he is now definitely running out of hunts in his base, and Lucas could push forward quite easily here. But at the same time, these Reuters are not too bad against the Mace Holtons on their own. Mace Holtons being worse than skirmishers because of their range. And we'll just have to wait and see what Aztec does. I think he's just going to be messing Eagle Runners at the moment.
It's not just food that the Stanley Winston is missing, because he's actually able to secure this hunt now temporarily, but he's also missing coin. He has no more coin left in base, just banking off the 5 banks, banking off the banks. But with no coin production, no villagers on coin, he's not going to be able to produce any more of those very, very coin heavy units in the Falconets. And so that composition he was going for earlier, especially with the inclusion of the Arrow Knights, is definitely not going to be viable. Now the infrastructure is just not there for Stanley Winston to be able to produce something that can fight against Lucas here, who has established map control and has a good economy behind it. 3 TP Stagecoach, 10 Warrior Priests in the back of it, and a decent eco, just villager-wise, too.
Yeah, and I think Lucas is just about to send... Or maybe not. Maybe he's just stacking too much coin. I thought he was going to send the extra range on those Eagle Runner Knights, but obviously not. Actually, if you can get the range on the Eagle Runner Knights, I mean, this Dutch army just gets demolished. Although that is a lot of hussars coming out for the Stanley Winston. He's just going to push them in there. Although the XP he's getting from this OSDG. There you go. And that's the series done.
And that will represent the last game of this series. Lucas taking it 3-0.